Then on Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the big matchup coming up here in the Big 12 in Week 9 of this 2022 college football season. And this could be over the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Kansas State Wildcats. Huge matchup for both these teams coming up here in Week 9. You got two of the biggest contenders in the Big 12 going head-to-head in this matchup. Oklahoma State is number 9 in the country. They're 6-1. Kansas State is ranked 22nd in the country at 5-2. Both teams in the top 3 of the conference. Definitely a crucial one for both these teams moving forward. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting with your team trends. Oklahoma State, they beat Texas 41-34. That was a very back and forth game there. Texas led for a while, and Oklahoma State was able to come from behind and get what is a massive win over Texas. And obviously Texas was ranked in the top 20 in that matchup too, so plus you get a resume building win there. The Cowboys are 6-1 heading into this matchup, obviously coming off of a disappointing loss a couple of weeks ago to TCU as well. You can't forget about that, which went into double overtime. But otherwise, Oklahoma State has been a solid team this season. And Kansas State on the flip side, they lost to TCU 20-38. And quite honestly, I think Kansas State had that game in the bag. It was just the quarterback situation, the injuries really had a huge impact on how that game went. If Adrian Martinez was playing in that game the entire time, I think K-State wins that game. It's honestly... it's just really, it's unfortunate for K-State because that could have been a massive win for them over an 8th-ranked TCU team, which was definitely within reach. Once again, I mean, this team with Adrian Martinez the past few weeks has been outstanding. I mean, honestly, ever since that Oklahoma win, this Kansas State team has been trending upwards. But, I mean, once again, those injuries, I think, really got in the way during that TCU game. Games going to be on Saturday, October 29th in Manhattan, Kansas. So the Wildcats are the home team for this one. Kickoff is 2:30 p.m. Central. Spread's going Kansas State by 1.5. So this is a very close spread here, and Kansas State is slightly favored, which, I mean, it's not terribly surprising, even though Oklahoma State is the higher-ranked team and they got the better record, but it makes sense. Kansas State at home, and it really, you know what, I think what makes a huge difference here is going to be Adrian Martinez. I will say that from the start in this quarterback situation. If it's a healthy quarterback situation, I think Kansas State really has got a good chance to win this one. But if they don't, and I mean, we're going to figure out more as the week goes on, but if they don't have Adrian Martinez and this quarterback situation is still a mess, still injured, I mean, it might be tough for the Wildcats to win this one. So, I mean, it's a conditional prediction, that's for sure here for this matchup. Over-under is 56, and your FPI is disagreeing with the spread, going with Oklahoma State 54%. Series history, Oklahoma State leads at 42-26. They've won the past 3. And they've won 3 out of the past 5. So Kansas State has won a few games in recent history, but Oklahoma State does hold a 3-game winning streak. Stat comparison for this one, Oklahoma State is 7th in points per game, 102nd in points allowed. So defensively, this team has allowed a lot of points this season. They're 16th in passers games, 60th in rush yards, and then for yards allowed, they're 130th in passing. That is the second to worst pass defense in the country there for Oklahoma State, and they're 73rd in rush yards allowed. So defensively, this team definitely can be better. I mean, they've allowed 300 passers a game, which is not very good at all. And obviously, they are 102nd in points allowed. They're allowing an average of nearly 29 points a game. But on the flip side, they're scoring nearly 45 points a game, which is one of the top in the country there. And obviously, this passing game with Spencer Sanders, they've been pretty good this season in the passing game, as Sanders already has over 2,000 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, versus 4 interceptions on the season. And as for Kansas State, they're 63rd in points per game. They're 35th in points allowed. So this is a strong defensive team here in Kansas State. I mean, they did allow 38 points against TCU, and it really would have helped if this defense could have stepped up further in that game against TCU, because, I mean, they still scored 28 on offense, which is enough to give you a win. But obviously that defense just didn't play very well. But we've seen strong defensive performances at points this season. They allowed 9 points against Iowa State. They did lose to Tulane, of course, back in week 2, but it was just the offense that was the problem in that game. The defense only allowed 17 there. But then again, there have also been a couple of not so great performances, like allowing 28 to Texas Tech and 34 to Oklahoma. K-State, they're 110th in pass yards a game, 13th in rush yards a game, so mainly a rushing offense here in K-State. Obviously, when Adrian Martinez is in there, he's rushing a lot. And obviously, you got Deuce Vaughn, who is an outstanding running back with nearly 750 yards on the season and 4 touchdowns to this point. Your recent matchups: Oklahoma State, they beat Texas 41-34, lost to TCU 40-43. So both teams have lost to TCU in the past couple of weeks. Oklahoma State's loss in particular was really tough, losing that game in double overtime. They beat Texas Tech 41-31, beat Baylor 36-25, and they also beat UAPB 63-7. As for Kansas State, they lost to TCU 28-38, beat Iowa State 10-9. Close, low-scoring matchup there. Beat Texas Tech 37-28. They beat Oklahoma 41-34. Obviously, what you could consider to be the signature win of the season to this point, as the Sooners were ranked 6th in the country going into that one. And, of course, that lost to Tulane 10-17, which in the end, turns out Tulane is a pretty good football team. They're ranked right now. So you could say that loss isn't a terrible one, even though it definitely was disappointing at the time. Your key points for this one: Oklahoma State 6-1. This team is a very strong team on offense, obviously averaging 45 points a game. Defensively, got to be better down the stretch. That's something that I've said almost every week with Oklahoma State is, this is a team that could be a major Big 12 contender, potentially a college football playoff contender, but this defense does need to be better for that to be in the question, as they're allowing nearly, once again, 29 points a game, which is not very good. This is a huge game for both these teams to remain in contention for the Big 12. The Big 12, once again, is just a wide open conference. It's really a fun conference this season because anyone can win it. The only thing is that there's a good chance we just don't see a Big 12 team in the college football playoff because of that, just because these teams are taking a decent amount of losses. But TCU is at the top right now. Who would have imagined that in the offseason? TCU being 7-0, still undefeated heading into week 9. And obviously you got Oklahoma State, who's currently in second at 6-1, Kansas State in third at 5-2. You still got Texas, who potentially could make a run to win the conference, even though it seems unlikely at this point. Quite honestly, I feel like the winner of the conference is either going to be TCU or the winner of this game. So, it's coming down to it. We're starting to finally be able to eliminate teams from contention in the Big 12. Just a couple of weeks ago, I could have seen 8 teams winning the conference. So things have changed a decent amount since then. But for K-State quarterback situation, obviously a major factor here. With a healthy team, I feel like the Wildcats are a big contender to win the conference. Adrian Martinez, once again, has come around a lot over the course of the season. And, this team with a strong rushing game and a home field advantage, I feel like they have a decent chance to win this game. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Oklahoma State and Kansas State coming up here in Week 9. And this is a conditional prediction here today. This isn't something that I usually do, but I feel like the quarterback situation for Kansas State is significant enough to the point where it would affect the outcome of this game. So that said, this is in the case that Kansas State quarterback Adrian Martinez is healthy and starting for this matchup. Give me Kansas State here 31-27. I think, once again, you look at this team with Adrian Martinez and how he's come around over the course of the season. This team has played really well. And Adrian Martinez is not only a threat in the passing game, but also on the ground. And that's the thing, is that he is an outstanding rusher and he's made massive plays. Just look at that Oklahoma game. So, I think that's going to be a major factor. And if he is playing in this game, I'm going to go with Kansas State 31-27. I would say 55% towards K-State and the over, along with Kansas State covering. But in the situation where he does not play for this game, I'm going to go with Oklahoma State 34-20. I think Kansas State would have a tough time scoring over 20 if they don't have Adrian Martinez here, even though it is obviously still possible. But I'm going to go Oklahoma State in that situation 34-20. I would say Oklahoma State wins this game by a couple of touchdowns if that were to be the case, but I'd still say 55% towards the Cowboys. Over under 56, I take the under in this situation, and Oklahoma State to cover the spread in the end. So this is, once again, in the case that Adrian Martinez is not starting. But that said, that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.